this evening as we start our new sermon series, The Exodus into Egypt, as we look at timeless truths that have life-changing effects. We ended our sermon series, The Elijah Message, and so we started a new series, and it's called The Exodus and Egypt. The Exodus and Egypt. How God people got down into Egypt in the first place, and by what means did they get there? What was their reason for being in bondage? Was it God's plan? Was it devised by God himself for his people to be enslaved by another nation? The answer is clearly no. And we turn to now the historian of creation, 2,500 years after creation. God called a man by the name of Moses. His name simply means to draw out. Significant though it be, he was used of God to lead almost over 1 million people from bondage through the Red Sea, or the Yam Sea, as it's called in Hebrew, and to deliver so many people by a miraculous deliverance out of the hand of the oppressor. Today we turn to chapter 1 of the book of the Exodus, and as we know, Genesis is the book of beginnings, Exodus is the book of redemption. Exodus is the book of redemption, the deliverance of God's people from the oppressed. And today there are so many peoples around the world that are oppressed and are being oppressed by more powerful and advanced nations of the earth. And the spirit of Pharaoh still reigns and still lives today. That oppressive spirit, that spirit that deem itself superior and other nation inferior. I want you to know that Pharaohism is not dead. And in the minds of so many today, they still have that same concept. But you know how God deals with oppressors. He has a way to break their back and to tear them down and to let his people go free. And so we look at Exodus chapter 1 because that's where our story comes from. And today we are starting in chapter 1 and we're going to continue this sermon series. Now, the Exodus and Egypt. Now, the Bible tells us that now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man and his household. You had Reuben, you had Simeon, you had Gad, you had Levi, you had Asher, you had Nephilim, you have Zebulun. These are all the sons of Jacob that issue from his loins, says the King James. But I want you to recognize, beloved, that the strategy of the enemy is still imminent. The strategy of the enemy today is still evident in our society. Remove some 4,000 years from the Egypt experience of then, we can still see the same similarities in our communities, in our society, and even among certain ethnic group in the world, in America, in Africa, in the islands of the Caribbean, and around the world. We can